Hi, my name is Ashley McKenzie, and I'm the writer-director of Queens of the Qing Dynasty, which is having its world premiere in the Encounters competition at the Berlinale.
I will be a housewife and make you dinner. Will you be my husband? Here.
I'm making you work. You're using different objects. I'm bloating.
Well, this is zucchini. I looked it up when I was in grocery store because they only had white people vegetables.
I'm eating evil fruit.
Hello and welcome to the 36th Teddy Award. My name is Jan Felix Wuttig, and as you can see, I'm here at our studio in the Myers Hotel. And today I'm here with director Ashley McKenzie to talk about her film Queens of the Qing Dynasty. Hello Ashley, pleased to have you here.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, first of all, for the film. I found it was a very beautiful and captivating film about so many different topics. There's mental issues there's gender isolation, there's immigration, and maybe most importantly, there's this unique inner way of looking at the world, I found. At the surface, it's kind of about two people meeting in a hospital and forming that sort of unique bond with each other. Could you maybe tell us what your sort of initial idea was when you started conceiving the film?
Sure, yeah, when you list all the kind of topics and themes there, it feels like so much, and it certainly wasn't maybe where I started. I mean, for me, it definitely began as a very close character study of a friend of mine, and that became the role of Star. And like anything I've written, there's a lot that is based on real life experiences and people that inspire me and things I've witnessed in the world. And then there's a lot of creative license that is worked into that. But I was just so focused in the initial stages of writing and trying to capture this character and this person and the way that they did see the world, and that which I thought was really unlike anything I had ever quite met, anyone I had quite met before. And the way that they spoke was, to me, so creative and fun. And even though the reality of their life seemed quite challenging at times, their outlook on things just really diffused that a lot. And so I was really just excited by them and inspired by them, and really wanting to capture what I loved about them. And I wasn't, focusing too much on like, this is what I want to say and I need to end up here or there. But that was how I was approaching it initially with the role of Star. And then the role of Anne came about later in my writing when Zian, who plays the role, moved to the community that I live in. they were living in Shanghai and they came to Cape Breton Island, Unama'ki in Canada, which is a small, remote community, very much unlike Shanghai. And they came here to go to school with intentions of wanting to immigrate and become a permanent resident. And back home, I think that they weren't able to really explore their authentic self fully and express themselves in the ways that they wanted. So when I met them and became friends with them, they were very much wanting to connect and talk about very intimate things. And so with both of these people in my life that eventually inspired the roles, there was like this very candid dialogue that would happen that would reveal very interesting outlooks on the world that to me just were incredibly inspiring and fun and complicated and problematic, and they just really entertained me and had my attention for years. And that was really the whole process of writing, was just like, I want to go deep into the characterization of these individuals and go wherever it takes me and not be afraid of if it all, you know, makes sense or follows any sort of normative like narrative structure.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, coming back to that, to the character of Star, and I think one of the synopses that I've read about it described her as a character with mental incapacities, and I found that this completely does not do her justice. Could you maybe describe the character in your own words in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I think for both characters, particularly Star, I think the world is telling her she's one thing, and I think to me, I'm trying to unpack that in the film and really, and I think she's in her connection with Anne is starting to unpack that too, because there's just an emphasis, I think, in the world, and just specifically maybe in the community that she's in, because she spends a lot of time in hospital there's so many reasons why that may be, but I think the label that is assigned to her is that, you know, she's incapable, or that she's mentally ill, or just all these, that she has some sort of disorder. So many different things that I think for her, it's very, very much a reductive, limiting way of looking at her. And the way I like to describe Star is as a neurodiverse person. And for me, the way her brain works, I didn't see that as broken or bad. I saw that as like very rich and creative, and that it opens something up. Like her unfiltered quality can be seen as problematic and maybe an impulse control problem, but actually in this very specific situation, which everything about this film and the characters, I feel like I really need to tie down to this very specific context that they're in, because this can't be said of everyone everywhere. But with Star, I think the way that she interacts with the world and meets people, I think that quality of hers is like a special quality that opens people up. And, you know, she looks at everyone a little bit longer, and in doing that, she gets somewhere is different than the average person would, and I think can touch people and, you know, develop something with people that, you know, other people wouldn't be able to. So that is, to me, is like a special power that I think is amazing. Yeah.
I mean, specifically when she says that she loves it when people are honest or have an honest reply to things, I think that is also something that is transported back to the viewer through the film, because she just literally cannot be dishonest in a sense. You know, she is looking and searching for sort of something true in the way that she communicates. And I think the film transports that really well and really beautifully. I found also that you know, you have these scenes where you can kind of see her looking, and there's this kind of comment on the sound design, or in the way that certain melodies or sounds are kind of put into the movie. And I found that to be a kind of comment on the way she looks at the world. You know, when you have some music that is maybe slightly discomforting, or even warm, but was that the idea behind putting that on the audio level, kind of?
Yeah, I guess there was a lot of, the music to me is, it's pretty complex, and maybe it's hard to totally pin down, but what you're saying is, I was definitely hoping that the music and sound design would enrich the characterization of Star, because in both characters, I think, have their own musicality that it does express a lot about each of them. And, you know, Star also, you know, has a bit more of a deadpan demeanor, and, you know, her affect can be flat at times. So, you know, compared to maybe the typical performance, you might not get as much as you're used to. And in me wanting to try to bring out all their layers, I think music was important in getting there. And it was something that sort of intuitively was sort of discovered in the edit. Myself and my co-editor, Scott, we would just pull in different songs, and eventually there was this glitchy, experimental electronic music that seemed to really comment on and support the rhythm of this character. Like, Star just very much subverts any sort of normative processes. Like, if you try to like have a typical patient doctor interview with her, it's not going to go the way she's not going to follow the script. She kind of throws a wrench in things, and it felt oftentimes that the music was helping generate that weird, awkward, unpredictable energy. Yeah. And then other times the music had different flavors, but it did seem to often align with the way she's interpreting a moment. And as an audience, the way we're interpreting it might be different, because we might see maybe different consequences of, you know, when she's doing the capacity test with the social worker. But for her in that moment, she's very present and in it and stimulated, and the music has like this maybe more playful quality, even though maybe we might understand in watching it that there's something maybe more sinister happening.
Yeah. And I think that Anne is kind of the sort of counterpoint to Star. I mean, they're also very close to each other in the way they look at the world, which is why they can form this unique kind of bond. But he also brings different aspects, obviously, to the narrative aspects, like kind of the unique sort of isolation of the immigrant, in a sense. What kind of importance did that topic have to you when sort of thinking about the film or constructing the film?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I guess, again, the community that I live in is, you know, I would say, and for most of my lifetime not much has changed, and there's been a lot of youth out migration, and it's predominantly white settler colonial kind of culture, Roman Catholic, all these things. But in recent years, there's been, for the first time, this influx of new immigrants and newcomers from different countries and different cultures and nationalities, that it's like so exciting to finally see things start to change. But also, you know, there's the fear that, okay, how is this something different happening going to land with the people that are here, and how are the newcomers going to feel coming here, and are they going to be welcomed? This sort of tension that you wonder how different people are going to be. But with Star and Anne, I think despite having very different life experiences, they do seem to have certain commonalities, and I would say just like a very like aching for connection. But they're coming at it from such a different place. Like, you know, I guess Star's having, I mean, the scene in the chapel, I guess, early in the film, I think really does show this counterpoint and brings a perspective, and like as a singer and as someone who the things that they worship, whether it's divas, pop singers, or queens of the Qing Dynasty, these sorts of things that they see value in, I think are sort of put a spin on all the things that Star has been told are like problematic or inaccessible. And yeah, I think that Anne's character just brings this more warm and this energy that is more expressive, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, despite the film being so much of a dialogue and so much about words and playing with words, I think it also is like really pushes the boundaries of like where do words not contain what we need to communicate and what we are. And I think that Anne brings a very special thing to the film in that regard, in the way that this particular gesture that they do at one point in the film, I think also is like critical and like sort of expanding the notions of, you know, there's so much inside of us that, and words are going to fail us at times. And what are the other ways in which we can express ourselves? Yeah.
And I found that was maybe the greatest aspect of the film, that you can really see that. You can see it sort of laid out for the viewer, what these characters kind of go through. But at the same time, there's also, you know, like little hints and pieces, and where you can just kind of assume what is happening and what these characters feel. But it just, you know, kind of keeps you hooked, and it makes those characters very rich and there's a lot of facets to it. And I found also that is very much supported by the look of the film, because I found there's this incredible focus on surfaces, you know, in a scene where they are looking at newborn babies, or actually also in a scene where they are eating dessert, and the dessert, the sheer kind of visceral surface of it looks like a painting, basically. I guess my question would be, what was your idea when you were thinking about the look of the film?
Yeah, that's definitely a big question, but I guess specifically when you start talking about like surfaces, I definitely am like very interested in textures and the world that the characters are existing in. You know, I think I try to hone in on like little specific details that I feel like do communicate a lot, rather than trying to maybe show everything. I try to find something meaningful in like the objects, the smaller things, and also capturing their textures and their sounds in a way that sometimes to me is like funny, sometimes it's, you know, maybe profound, sometimes it's just a bit weird. But I would say specifically with this film, because in my past work, I often do try to find like these graphical, I sometimes say that I cast objects. I try to cast objects in the same way I cast characters. And in this film, that expanded, I would say, almost to something more like iconography. The objects, you know, I think specifically because there's different figureheads throughout the film, there's certain web of figures that it sort of moved, I think, to a different level from objects into iconography. But again, coming back to like textures and the visual aspects of things. And maybe this is more sound actually, but I felt like there was like kind of absurd comedic undertone to a lot of the film as well. So when it came down to textures, that was something that was like on my mind a lot. I wanted to capture the, you know, the weird sounds like a stomach growling, or the sound of the dessert, or like the, you know, the wet boots in a hallway, just all the, you know, like a chair creaking. There was just something that I wanted to just be very, I wanted the environment to come alive and to very feel how embodied the characters are in moments. But a lot of that is sound stuff. I think, you know, visually, there was a lot of decisions that, you know, were trying to service the portrait aspect and characterization aspect of the film, which meant like a lot of close-ups. And I wanted to frame them in ways that gave them a lot of shape and dimension, and also put them in frame the spaces in a way that you sensed the dimension of the rooms. And then at times I wanted to get like really close to them so that time and space falls away a bit, and you go into this wormhole almost that to me is like, you know, sort of when you first meet someone sometimes and you do form a special connection and you're sharing yourself with them and maybe even forming this your own language and like riffing on one another, and there's wordplay and all these things, that when you're in that sort of space and the chemistry or the chemicals are mixing in that moment, that you're not in a regular realm anymore and time and space doesn't matter. So the film at times goes into those tunnels, and that was definitely a guiding visual choice.
I found it as well. Like when Anne and Star are looking at each other, or when Star is kind of looking sort of at somebody close to the camera, it feels very much as if you're kind of drawn into her or into their zone, and you kind of that gives the film a kind of unique feel, you know, as far as temporality goes, basically, because you have those, like you, as you called it, tunnels that you sort of fall into. One other aspect that I found of things that kind of that occur, or that also have to do with the iconography that you described, is sort of that there's cartoons sort of plopping up throughout the narrative, and giving a sort of, it's funny and comedic in a sense, but it's also kind of disconcerting, you know, in a way, because these are not, you know, your average sort of like Simpson-esque cartoons. Just as a for a detail, could you describe what they signify?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, as this can often be the case, I think they started in one place and ended up in another. I also take a lot of time with my films, and like took a lot of time in the edit, so that does allow the space for things to really develop into larger ideas, because originally it was really just a practical thing that, you know, when we were scouting locations and different hospitals and saw the rooms and saw the TVs in the rooms, we were like, okay, we want to use that in the mise en scène. Okay, but what do we want to put on the TVs? Which is always, like, as any filmmaker knows, like, licensing things, clearing things can be like a headache. And one of my producers was trying to get me to figure out what I want to put on the TVs, and I hadn't cast the role of Star yet, so I was like kind of put it on the back burner. But then I think he had the idea to reach out to some animators that we knew, because Star was being placed in a pediatric ward. I think he thought, you know, I'm gonna go get some animation. So once we had that idea, we thought of some people and some films that we liked, and just had them kind of in our back pocket. And when we went into a room and we're going to film a scene, we would sort of pull from a catalog and and just feel it out sort of thing. But then, yeah, my co-editor and I, we took a lot of time in the edit to, again, just try to find all these weird layers in the scenes and things that would just create this complex world. And so we, in the editing, I think, worked those pieces in ways that really weaved them in more intricately into the rhythm of what was happening. And then they ended up contributing to this like larger stimuli, I think, throughout the film that happens at times, where the frame does go maybe full on a more impressionistic image. Sometimes it's animation, sometimes it's something else. But to me, that started to feel like almost like these, I call them plate shots at times, but shots that like we're almost charting the changing chemistry of the characters throughout the film. Yeah. Like on this more impressionistic level, at times I felt like, you know, just I wanted to feel like things shifting and the chemistry of everything shifting, and it felt like going on these more really tight images of different stimuli at times seemed to like capture that energy a bit. Yeah, I found that it was a very pretty cool way to do that, kind of, because you have those, you know, those temporal kind of tunnels that the characters go into, and at the same time you have that on the sound level, and also when you cut to it on the visual level, you have these cartoons that show you know, that explosion of dynamics kind of that are also happening between the characters, but you don't see them acting that out kind of in gestures, but you kind of see it throughout these cartoons in a sense. Yeah, no, that's so true. That because so much of their energy is through dialogue. I think anything that was drawing out, building, I guess, on this fictional world almost that they built together. They construct these ideas, and something that could almost run with that more, I think. Yeah. Was interesting to explore. Yeah. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for taking the time and for talking to us. And I hope you have a really nice time at the Berlinale, and I think Queens of the Qing Dynasty is going to be a big success. I really enjoyed it. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, and I'm really thankful that you were up for engaging with the film, and it's really lovely to chat. The Chetty Awards are great. Thank you so much.